Friday the 13th. I was going to talk about Hellsing, but while researching, I found the origin of the characters. I thought of talking about Hellgirl instead.
Well, look at you.
But the manga is a bit long. I thought of finding something like Killer Clowns from Outer Space in written form, and then I considered something really horrible, Sonichu. But although it is absurd, I ended up bored by all that immature insanity. No, let's talk about real monsters. You have probably heard of Hellsing, right? Having two manga series, a TV series, and an OVA series, Kouta HIrano's franchise show how vampires that threat humanity are fought by at least two organizations, focusing on the biggest agent in England, a vampire called Alucard.
T-R-A-C...
On the TV series, this amounts to Alucard is awesome and no one has ever had a chance. While in the OVAs, the fights are more interesting, even if more bloody, and who doesn't like insane enemies like Nazi vampires? Of the manga, I've only read the first, and it would have been a short review, I think. There's really not much to say. But then I found the original story, and it's really something to be discussed. You know, you hear about how many manga artists start drawing hentai. The industry would be a way to have an audience that's more tolerant to mistakes and be paid for your work, even if you can't do it under your own name, unless you're Masamune Shirow. Apparently, it's Hellsing's case. Legends of the Vampire Hunter is a story quite similar to the first chapter of the manga and the anime. Alucard gets to a devastated place. While in others it's a city attacked by an army of ghouls, here they were attacked by two vampires. The design of our main character, Strawcat Eman, is basically the same, besides him having a tattoo on his face which says, Jesus Christ is in heaven. This is noticeable because of its ambiguity. There's no way of knowing if it's a declaration of belief in a savior looking over all, or of despair for a savior not being with us. The first page also tells us, in this universe, a victim of vampirism will become a vampire depending only on how much blood has been sucked out of them. In the franchise itself, you need to be a virgin when you're bitten, which is a good idea in general. After all, just think about what that means for the world.
We're gonna live our lives until we die, possibly by vampire. More likely auto accident or heart disease, but possibly vampire.
Okay, true. And in the story, there's going to be a reason for it being like this. But the logistics simply work better if there are more requirements to become a vampire. Rndom also says there's a woman missing from the squads, and yes, that's exactly the problem. Our villains are the Valentine brothers, which would be in both animated series as well. If you, like me, saw these appearances, it's possible you've got the same impression I did. They are shown as revolting, one of them being glad for causing misery, and the other staying out of it more, but basically liking the same kind of thing and participating as well, even if less so. However, one of the things clarified by reading this story is why they are shown as so revolting, even if the story doesn't use similar tone for others. Just look at the first enemies. A priest who becomes a vampire and a vampire couple who kills for fun. Alucard Premium Platinum doesn't care much for them, but the priest has a backstory developed around him and the couple is presented as rebels euphoric for committing crimes and killing people. For the audience, they are villains, even if Alucard doesn't give him any movie ticket discount. But the Valentine brothers are characterized as particularly awful since always, while they don't really do much more than the others. In this story, after dining on their victims, they keep the last one for dessert and... Look, let's make something clear here. The problem is not that the villains are awful. The problem is not that rape is one of their crimes. There are two problems. One, and of course I can't show this, but the victim is shown in provocative poses and the sexual act as something to be observed. I'm not talking about torn clothes or even drinking soma like Seiko no Quasar. I'm talking about showing a woman being raped as if it was an acceptable form of sex. And two, the way the victim is treated. Again, if you've seen the cartoon versions, the woman is kept as a hostage, in those cases Ceres, and in this a character called Yuri, and has to continue her life as a vampire. However, even though in those versions this is a way of stopping her dying, though she does still become undead, I'm gonna count it as a half hit. Here, this is due to her having her blood sucked while being sexually assaulted. The brothers are dispatched, the conflict being similar to the animated versions to a point. She's then carried by Strawcab, who instead of consoling her, gives her forms to have her become a part of the Hellsing organization. The issue is that when he offers a chance to continue kind of alive, he's a tad rude, but he is still saving her from being simply dead. Here, he is ignoring what she went through and forcing her to make a choice that would shape her future, essentially trapping her in a corner. And this is part of the problem. Hellsing is like 50 Shades of Grey, but instead of taking the vampires from the original, Kouta HIrano took out the rape. And again, the issue is not that there is rape, but how it is not treated as important and is shown as just sex. And that is without considering the linguistics of it. Yuri means lily in Japanese, and the word is used to refer to lesbians and the attraction between women, meaning not only is this rape shown as positive, the vampire asks her name, implying the villain might consider this a corrective act. With that implication, subtly the problem is even bigger, surprisingly as it may be. One, because there is a suggestion that they might not even have done this if she were not seen as a lesbian, and just because of that would be refusing the act or deserving of the act. And two, because the second brother's participation is started by a comment that she was tight, suggesting she is a virgin. Therefore, if you feel aroused by these images, you should attack a virgin. This is so clearly wrong, it becomes a joke in Hellsing. When Alucard asks about Sarah's virginity, and this is relevant only to her becoming a vampire, and her concerns about staying pure are unnecessary. I had thought of reviewing the first manga, but after seeing this, I don't want to see Hellsing for a long time. A lot is said about the use of sex and sexuality in Japanese culture, and I can defend representation, as fan-servicey as they may seem, for one simple reason: they don't reduce the victims. When a girl gets horny over the possibility of dying, it's a bizarre case for sure, but it doesn't say anything about anyone besides the character. When sexual violence is shown as appealing, it suggests there can be positive acts without consent. There cannot. I really want to believe that people can learn from their mistakes, and if Hellsing is a good representation, maybe HIrano has, but this is way too prevalent not to call it out as a problem.